I just wanted to say thank you for showing us support so far on our journey. It's been so wonderful getting to read all of your comments, and we can't wait to learn with you in the future. This video is a little long, but you can watch a summary of the weekend over here. If you want to watch the vlog and just skip the part about all the camping, because that's quite a big chunk of it, you can skip to here. So, like anyone getting into witchcraft for the first time, my friends and I first experienced it on TikTok. For hours and hours each day, I would spend time scrolling through the app and finding all about the different types of witchcraft, absorbing all of the wonderful information about herbs and talismans and crystals, and learning so much about this fantastic practice. And one day we came across a particular group, and we just kept seeing them over and over on our feed again. We really liked their personality, so decided to give them a follow. We spent the next couple of months dabbling into witchcraft, and we decided to make Bramble Fairy really as a way for us to come together and share our experiences and what we learned. We learned a few things, but our knowledge was very eclectic, and we didn't really have much of a direction as to how we were going to shape this Bramble Fairy, or indeed really what direction we were going to take our witchcraft. So we decided that the best course of action was to find shows or events around the UK that we could go to. Anything to do with paganism or witches, and we just really wanted to immerse ourselves in the culture. We had a look around on Google and actually found a ton, which really surprised me, as I've never really heard of these events before. I guess I didn't really have any friends or family who were witches, so never really knew this part of society existed. There were witchcraft festivals and pagan moots and vegan camping weekends, and they all just sounded absolutely fantastic. And honestly, I wanted to go to all of them. We did find one that really stood out to us, however, and that was the Festival for Pagans and Witches in Coventry. We had a look at their website and it sounded wonderful. It claimed to host a variety of talks, rituals, even a Viking feast, Viking battles, which really appeals to me, of course. They even have a witches' ball, and so that honestly just sounded perfect to us, and so we decided to go. As it's just outside Coventry, it's near Birmingham, therefore really easy for the three of us to get to. Me living in North Wales, I can just get the train straight from Flint all the way to Birmingham International, and for Sam and Jess I think it was only a 40-minute drive away, perhaps a bit longer. Upon looking at the website and delving into it a bit deeper, we discovered that it was actually hosted by none other than the Coven of Gaia. Everything just sounded fantastic, so we decided to book a few days off and attend the festival. We also made sure to pre-book a few of our favourite workshops. There were so many of them, and it was really quite hard to narrow down our favourites. The next few months flew by, and it was only a couple of weeks to go before we knew it. So we decided to hop on a video call one evening and actually organise. We did this by creating a timetable and spreadsheet of all the different events, just to make sure that we had plenty of time in the day to go to all of the workshops, as well as having time to have lunch, and of course plenty of time to visit all the stalls and any of the shows that were happening in the main arena, such as the Viking battle or the falconry display. We discussed what we would bring for camping, as we didn't want to end up with duplicates, and we really wanted to make sure that we brought everything we needed. And as I was travelling by train, Jess very kindly offered to take a lot of stuff for me, such as the camping gear and spare cutlery and that sort of thing, because I didn't really want to be taking that much on the train with me. I had one giant suitcase and one handbag, and that was it. She also offered to bring a camping chair for me, which would have been very difficult to take on the bus. We also planned what we were going to be cooking each day, as we wanted to save a bit of money. As the days drew closer, I could not wait to go to this festival. It was such a new experience for me. I've never actually been to a festival before, let alone any kind of witch or pagan group meeting. And I just couldn't wait to be surrounded by witches, pagans, and people who just resonate with me and have similar interests, and people that I could just learn so much from. Sam and Jess were a little late due to Birmingham traffic, so I decided to walk a few minutes to the nearest car park where they could pick me up easily, as it was pretty busy at the international airport, of course. And oh my god, I was so happy to see them. I was going to say it felt like months, but I think it had been months since I last saw them, because again, like I say, with the trains it's really hard for me to get down, so I was just so happy to get to see them again. I squeezed myself into the back of Jess's car, despite her having quite a big car. It was absolutely packed with camping gear. The tent took up half the boot space, and it was just absolutely full of suitcases and bags. So I got my big pink suitcase and I squeezed into the car, just about closed the door, and then we headed to Morrison's. We had already decided what we were going to cook for the weekend: a barbecue for tonight, cooked breakfast in the morning, wraps for lunch, and pasta the next day or something. We also bought an absolute truckload of onions for some reason. They were cheap. We also bought 2 disposable barbecues to use in the evening, and we also bought lots of snacks, and of course some more gin, even though we had already bought some. But in my opinion, you can never have too much gin. We really wanted to have the full camping experience and make s'mores, but we couldn't find any vegan marshmallows, unfortunately. So we bought what we always have, brownie counts, which was, you know, bananas coated in chocolate. No, You know, bananas wrapped in foil and you cut the middle and just fill it with chocolate and it makes like a melted chocolate banana mess.
What the hell are you talking about?
We got those. We eventually found the campsite and made our way over the field. The campsite was actually really lovely, surprisingly, and so was Dave and his 2 lovely dogs. Only a small field and so quiet. There was only one other couple on the field, and that was it for the weekend. We basically had the place to ourselves. Despite it only being a 10-minute drive away, it would have been a very long walk to the festival, I think an hour and a half, because all the roads were like this. It's not particularly great if you want to have a drink on Saturday night during the Witches' Ball, but if you have little kids or you just want peace and quiet, honestly, Dave's campsite, what was the name of it? It's just perfect. So as soon as we got there, we set up the tent. It was a big inflatable thing that attached to a camper van. It was all very new and modern and really easy to set up. There was just lots of pumping involved.
That's what she said!
We set up our beds alongside next to each other. We unpacked our bags and started the barbecue for dinner. This is tonight's dinner. Got the vegan barbecue. My 8 sausages. I'm gonna have 4 tonight and 4 for breakfast. And then you guys have got pork.
Pink and white.
and yellow. We cooked all of the vegan sausages and all of the meat all at the same time so we wouldn't have to do any cooking for breakfast in the morning. Not that we're lazy or anything. We just wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time to get to the opening ceremony at 9:30 the next day. We had bananas wrapped in tin foil and chocolate in the middle for dessert, and they were godly. They were divine. They were so good. So sickly. And then, as soon as it went dark, we saw the Aurora Borealis. Now, it was the first time in my life seeing this, and I was just so happy to be able to get to tick something off my bucket list. Sam had previously seen them in Iceland, and obviously it wasn't quite as majestic as that, but through the camera it just looked astonishing. And I remember I was looking at the sky and I could just see red shafts of light. It was very strange, but so beautiful. And something just seemed so coincidental about this happening on the weekend that we're going to a Witch and Pagan Festival. It was as if the universe was telling us that we're going to have a very magical weekend indeed. Early on Saturday morning we heated up our meat and our vegan sausages that we cooked the night before, and then we got ready, got dressed, and then headed our way to the festival. I really wasn't sure what to expect at my first witch or pagan festival. I didn't quite think that everyone was going to be wearing a witch's hat and carrying a besom, but I had the assumption that everyone was going to be dressed in black and resembling some sort of cool witch or goth from the 90s. However, when I got there, I noticed there was such a wonderful eclectic mix of people. There were couples and families with young kids, there were friends and people in covens, there were many different capes with different colours, and some people were wearing headdresses. There were plenty of heathens and vikings, and honestly everyone just looked absolutely fantastic. I really felt like I found my home. The opening ceremony was just beautiful, hosted by the Coven of Gaia and with more covens involved. They read poetry and did chanting and just wished us a happy weekend. They then handed out homemade bracelets to the first 500 people, made from cord and anointed with various oils and beeswax. It felt so welcoming, like returning home to a family. It really did. We had a little look around before our first workshop. There was a massive field and there were what felt like hundreds of different stalls selling an array of goods. The first thing I bought was this beautiful hagstone, Odin tea light holder and Triskeli tea light holder. They're all so beautiful and I'm currently displaying them on my altar. I don't have much of an altar at the moment, but I'm slowly building it up. At 10:30 we had our first workshop, Make Your Own Fairy Door with the Coven of Oak and Holly. We sat around tables in the middle of a giant and beautiful marquee, and the presenter told us a story about how she met the Fae for the first time. It was just a wonderful and heartwarming story. And then we were each given a little arts and crafts pack with lollipop sticks and various bits of moss and twine. And she also each made us a little clay mushroom to stick on, which is really lovely and a really thoughtful touch. I didn't have much time to do mine, but I finished mine when I got home and added a little bit of paint for a more rustic look. I think my fairy is a tired old lady who lives at the edge of a forest and makes soup.
Got soup.
We then went to our next workshop in the Coven of Gaia marquee, and this was a wand making workshop. She put a variety of branches in the middle of the table and told us to pick the one that called out to us and really imbue it with our intentions. I chose a hazel rod. We then decorated our wands with twine, feathers and a crystal. I chose, I think it was a magpie feather and a quartz crystal, which is apparently an all-rounder for everything. I also chose natural jute rope, of course, because I think that's very me. Jess's one looked absolutely beautiful. She had rainbow feathers, of course, and rainbow twine, and it It looked pretty spectacular. It was very Jess. We made sure to factor in quite a big break for lunch. We had plenty of time to get some food and spend more time walking around the place. The stalls were so beautiful and so gorgeous. Everything from spell jars, tarot reading, aura readings, headdresses, face paint and woodwork, even a blacksmith's. If you decide to go to the festival yourself next year, definitely save up twice as much as you had anticipated because you will definitely want to be spending a lot more. We also went to see the Viking battle, which I absolutely loved. There were what looked like 100 people there, and they had archers and Dane axes, and it was just, oh, so good. It really made me miss being a Viking, and I actually think I might get back into it again. After our break, we went to the flower crown making workshop over in the Tidmona Coven tent. The presenter gave us a wonderful talk on the history and significance of flower crowns, then gave us some supplies to make our own. Mine ended up a little too small, but it's very beautiful all the same, and I've just planned to use it for as many opportunities as I can. As we were done for the day, we decided to have yet another look at the stalls and then headed into the forest for our evening walk. There was some interesting props along the way, probably from past events, which just looked terrifying, honestly. I had heard lots of things about this forest and it really was quite magical, as people have said. The floor was covered in bluebells and it was just dimly lit because of all the trees above us. It was quiet and just so beautiful. As it was so hot and dry this weekend, I decided to go barefoot for most of the festival, and walking barefoot in the forest just really felt so rejuvenating, like I was just grounding with the earth again and connecting with nature. We returned back to camp and got ready for our witch's ball in the evening. I had bought my elf ears, of course, any excuse to wear them, and I will put them on because look at them, I just love them so much. I decided to wear an off-the-shoulder green dress that Sam and Carney lent me, and Jess and Sam looked absolutely gorgeous, of course they did. Jess had also bought us some stick-on gemstones and stick-on tattoos for the festival appeal. The ball was inside a marquee and was surrounded by benches with a bar not too far away. It was here that I discovered one of my new favourite bands, Rising. They sung about an old tree and a wolf, and they had a violin, and I absolutely love them. I can't wait to see them again. They were then followed by Daughters of Gaia, who had a really noughties pop feel. They were fun. I definitely drank too much gin that night, and we just all had an absolutely fantastic time.
Oh, hi Sam.
Hello. Get in. Closer to the fire. There she is. Sunday, our last day of the festival. I really didn't want to go home. We had breakfast at the Coventry, which was a restaurant on site. I had a lovely big vegan breakfast, which was definitely needed after last night. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Across from me there are some house martins, and they nested inside one of the little vents, and they have babies, and I just get to watch the mother feed babies all day. It's just wonderful. They're so cute. The first workshop of the day was the Garden and Witches Brew workshop inside the Circle of Bright Blessings marquee, and honestly this was my personal favourite workshop of the weekend. Jay presented us with a vast expanse of knowledge about herbs that you can use to grow at home to make your tea. She then shared with us some tea that she had used from plants that she grew in her own garden. We had lemon balm tea, we had sage tea, which reminded me of roast chicken for some reason, and also chocolate mint, and they all tasted so good. The workshop made me realise just how useful and abundant herbs can be. I feel like we have lost this over the years, and I really need to get back in just eating naturally again and just growing herbs in my own garden. Our next workshop followed a similar thing, the Witch's Herb Garden, held in the Tidmona marquee. Jess and I attended this one, and Sam went to an incense making workshop. Again, we learned about the many wonderful properties of herbs, and at the end of the session we had a guided meditation, and that was honestly one of the best meditations I've ever had. It just felt so grounding, like I was sinking into the earth. It was so well done. We had another big lunch break and perused the stalls once again, buying more gifts and trinkets and snacks. I honestly feel like you can be there an entire week and just still not buy everything or go to every stall. We sat down by the lake and enjoyed the peace and quiet for a brief moment, taking it all in. It was such a beautiful place to hold a festival. At 1:45 we attended the cacao ceremony inside the meditation marquee. We were each given some hot cacao, and it just tasted so warming and so delicious. And the presenter told us about the magic of cacao. We did a little bit of singing in Spanish. I didn't do very well. And then we all lay on the ground at the marquee. Some people had beanbag cushions and her friend played us some Indian singing bowls. And it was just such a relaxing experience. I'd felt tired already from the previous meditation, but this just sent me almost into a deep sleep. I really felt like I could stay there forever. I felt incredibly relaxed after all that meditation. And at 3 o'clock we had a workshop about veiling, which was a nice little talk about wearing headdresses to aid you in your spell work. And at 4 p.m. we had the closing ceremony. Again, we had the Coven of Gaia and various different covens all coming into the middle of the circle and reading speeches and reading poems and thanking the gods and thanking the land and thanking us for attending the festival of the weekend. And at the end you were each given a bit of ribbon and we had to tie 3 knots and we had to make a wish essentially. And then we had our neighbour tie it around our wrists to seal the wish. My wish was to fully immerse myself in my learning and my witchcraft and whatever else I wanted to explore. And I think I might just explore druidry. We had a very relaxing evening, right up until the point it started raining.
Are you okay? Do you need help or?
I'm helping.
It had been so dry all weekend, but we had brought swimming costumes just in case you found a body of water that we could swim in.
Oh my goodness. Oh god, it's so cold. It's so cold. I just shivered to your shot. Oh god, it's so cold. My skin is so hot. Are you ready to dance?
But it was so hot that we decided to don them and have a little dance in the rain because it just felt right. We didn't really mind so much as we had drunk a lot of gin by this point. The rain died down a little, but we were greeted by flashes of lightning and lots of thunder.
Rumble, 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 rumble.
Jess had gone off to have a shower at this point and me and Sam continued drinking gin. Now I really wanted more rain as I was having such a good time, and as I had a little bit to drink by this point I was a little rude to Thor, shall we say.
I had a mouthful of drink. Oh god.
Suddenly Sam's hair stood up as if being affected by static, and mine did too apparently, and I thought, oh crap, we're gonna get struck by lightning. And it's honestly a miracle that we didn't die because we were drunk and we spent ages trying to decide what to do.
What do you do? What do you do? Get down? What? Down?
We eventually ran inside the car because it apparently acts as a Faraday cage.
Yeah, apparently when you hear your static, like it's gonna strike on you is what it is.
No.
We saw Jess coming back from the showers and we were screaming.
Go back! Jess, go back! Go back! Don't go back! Jess! Jess!
No thanks.
Okay.
When do you think we could come out?
I don't know.
Do we live here now? It got so noisy.
Thankfully none of us were struck by lightning, and once it had died down we went out again.
Honestly, my hair went static and that means that like...
Yeah, and then Laura's went like... Yeah.
Back in the car. Never heard that before, really?
I've never heard that before
I
either.
have, honestly, Google it. It's a thing.
Let's Google it. Googling in the rain won't kill us.
Because we're busy.
Monday morning and already the post-festival blues are kicking in for me. I had such a tremendously wonderful time at the festival and I really could not wait to go back again. I felt like I'd met so many people that just resonated with me and I learned so much from them, and honestly everyone was so friendly. Just really felt like I'd found my home, and honestly I can't wait to go to the festival again next year.
Once a place of fairy lore, we were home for wolf and boar. Pagan place, last days of old, the witches' flames will be forever told. Pendle Hill, a brooding sight, majestic on a full moon night, rising dark from mist below, illuminating the silver afterglow.